Good evening, live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, coming up in the next hour. Iran backs out internet as more protests erupt in the country. EU says violence against peaceful protesters unacceptable. Khamenei accuses demonstrators of acting on behalf of the United States. Trump says he cancelled second wave of attacks on Venezuela, says $100 billion will be invested by big oil companies in Venezuela. Russia targets Ukraine with hypersonic missile. Oreshnik strikes knockout power in the capital. Western nations raise alarm. EU gives provisional go-ahead to huge trade deal with South American bloc Mercosur, despite opposition from France. India's External Affairs spokesperson calls US Commerce Secretary's reported remarks on trade talks not accurate, says India and United States working on mutually beneficial trade deal. Tensions between the United States and Venezuela remain on the global spotlight as President Trump says he has cancelled a planned second wave of strikes after Caracas showed what he called cooperation. Trump is also pushing a $100 billion oil investment plan with major global energy firms and a signal talks with Venezuelan opposition figures in Washington. DD India's Rabindra Chauhan gets us more.
US President Donald Trump on Friday announced that he had cancelled a second wave of strikes, citing what he called cooperation from Caracas. Trump said Venezuela has begun releasing political prisoners and that both countries are working together to rebuild oil and gas infrastructure, though US ships will remain in place for security. Trump's comments came hours after he said in a Fox News interview that Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado is expected to visit Washington next week, despite earlier doubts about her domestic support. Trump also claimed that major global oil companies have pledged $100 billion to revive Venezuela's oil sector. He made clear that control of Venezuela's oil reserves is central to Washington's strategy. Venezuela's interim leadership rejected Trump administration's plan of controlling its oil industry and insisted that it is holding talks with Washington on oil sales. Meanwhile, massive protests continue across Venezuela and tens of thousands of people took to the streets in Caracas on Thursday, condemning the United States' violation of their national sovereignty and demanding the release of President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores.
We are primarily protesting in defense of sovereignty. The sovereignty of our motherland was violated and trampled upon in the early morning of January 3. And undoubtedly, we also demand the immediate return of our President Maduro and National Assembly member Celia Flores.
Pope Leo on Friday reiterated his concern over the situation in Venezuela following the US ouster of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. Pope said he renews his appeal to respect the will of the Venezuelan people.
This pertains in particular to Venezuela in light of recent developments. In this regard, I renew my appeal to respect the will of the Venezuelan people and to safeguard the human and civil rights of all, ensuring a future of stability and concord.
Venezuela, which holds nearly a fifth of global oil reserves, has seen production collapse due to sanctions, underinvestment, and aging infrastructure. Analysts say restoring output will take years and tens of billions of dollars. Meanwhile, Russia claimed that the United States has agreed to release 2 Russian crew members from a Russian-flagged oil tanker seized in the North Atlantic. Moscow has condemned the seizure as illegal and warned it could escalate military and political tensions. Rabindra Chauhan's report for DD India.
Nationwide protests in Iran continue despite government-imposed internet restrictions spurred by exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi's call for demonstrations against the regime. As tensions rise, protesters demand freedom. Supreme leader of the country, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, urged unity to protect the nation.
Amid ongoing protests in Iran, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei addressed the nation on television as Iran blocked access to the internet. Khamenei accused protesters of acting at the behest of foreign powers.
Dear youth, preserve your religion, your political thought, your presence, your preparedness and your seriousness to preserve the country's progress. Protect your unity. An undivided nation will prevail over every enemy.
On the other hand, US President Donald Trump warned of severe consequences if Iranian authorities resort to killing protesters. Fresh unrest erupted after ousted Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi called on citizens to take to the streets against Khamenei regime. Authorities responded by cutting internet access and phone services nationwide. International flight disruptions followed, with calls from Dubai blocked and multiple flights cancelled. The unrest has triggered reactions from across the globe. New Delhi said it is closely following developments in Iran.
We are closely following developments in Iran. As you would have seen, we've also issued an advisory. We have some 10,000 Indian nationals and people of Indian origin in that country.
While European Union called on Iran to restore internet access in the country and condemned any violence against protesters.
We express our concern regarding the increasing number of deaths and injuries, and we reject any violence against peaceful demonstrators. The people of Iran are expressing their legitimate aspiration for a better life. Any violence against peaceful demonstrators is unacceptable. We urge the Iranian authorities to uphold the rights to freedom of expression and peaceful assembly and to restore access to the internet for all.
The protests, which started the shutdown on the Tehran Bazaar on December 28 after the local currency plunged to record lows, has spread nationwide. It has spread across several cities despite a heavy security clampdown. Local media reported at least 42 people, including security forces, killed and more than 2,270 detained since the unrest began. With agency inputs, to the party's report for DD India.
Meanwhile, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi met on Friday with his Lebanese counterpart Youssef Raji in Beirut and with Lebanese President Joseph Aoun at the Presidential Palace in Baghdad. Araghchi, speaking during a press conference upon his arrival to Lebanon on Thursday, said the purpose of his visit was to discuss Israel's challenges and threats to regional security, as well as expanding bilateral ties. Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi also met on Friday with Lebanese Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri, Prime Minister Nawaf Salam and the state's most senior Sunni Muslim cleric in Beirut. Moving on, latest in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Russia struck Ukraine with a powerful hypersonic missile strike near European Union's border. The attack killed 4 people, knocked out power to half of Kiev's city, and forced residents to flee amid freezing temperatures. Ukraine has termed it as a war crime and a new threat to European security, while Moscow called it retaliation. Here's more.
Russia fired a powerful hypersonic missile at Ukraine near the EU border overnight on Friday, leaving 4 dead and causing damage to the Qatari embassy along with 20 residential buildings. The strikes left half of the Ukrainian capital without power. Kyiv's mayor issued an exceptional call for residents to temporarily leave the city with temperatures at -8 degrees Celsius and set to drop further. The Oreshnik missile hit the Lviv region in western Ukraine, around 60 kilometers from the Polish border, and struck an infrastructure facility. Residents in Kyiv said the attacks undermined any talk of peace negotiations.
When there are negotiations, there should be some action that show there is genuine attempt to reach an agreement. But when a peace plan is being discussed and at the same time civilian homes are being struck, that makes no sense at all. It feels like we are trying to do something while they are saying, do whatever you want, we'll continue doing what we need.
Moscow says it's a response to what it has described as an attempted drone attack on one of President Vladimir Putin's residences last month, even though Ukraine has denied and the United States has said it did not happen. Zelensky claims that Russia attacked with 13 ballistic missiles, including the Oreshnik and 22 cruise missiles, while also launching 242 drones over Ukraine. Calling it a new threat to European security, Kyiv has demanded a global response. Ukraine's security services said that it is treating Russia's Oreshnik strike as a war crime.
SBU investigators qualify the use of these weapons against Ukraine's civilian infrastructure as a war crime by the Russian Federation.
Leaders of Britain, France, and Germany agreed on a call that Russia's use of an Oreshnik intermediate-range ballistic missile in western Ukraine was escalatory and unacceptable. Keir Starmer said that it was clear Russia was using fabricated allegations to justify the attack. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said it was time for the EU to resume high-level dialogue with Russia. Russian President Vladimir Putin claims that the Oreshnik missile does not cause mass destruction because there is no nuclear warhead, and that means there is no nuclear contamination after its use. The missile can even strike multiple targets which are highly protected and located at a great depth. With Ukrainian and US envoys joined by a coalition of Ukraine's allies negotiating in Paris this week to solve disagreements in a peace framework, the latest strike may cause delay in peace talks. Bureau Report, DD India.
United States has seized Olena tanker in the Caribbean. That is the fifth vessel taken in Venezuela blockade. Washington says that the naval blockade is aimed at preventing sanctioned oil from departing Venezuela. The Olena was another Ghost Fleet tanker ship suspected of carrying embargoed oil and was seized after it departed Venezuela, attempting to evade U.S. forces, as per Homeland Security Chief Kristi Noem. In other news, the situation of religious minorities in Bangladesh has drawn renewed international attention after UK Shadow Foreign Secretary Priti Patel raised concerns over the reports of rising violence against Hindus. In a letter to the UK Foreign Secretary, Patel describes the incidents as deeply concerning, citing reports of at least 6 Hindus who were killed within 18 days. She urged the UK government to clarify what steps it had taken to engage with Bangladeshi authorities, seek assurances on minority protection, and use diplomatic influence to help restore stability and safeguard religious freedom. Still to come on DD India Newshour. Russian warship arrives in South Africa to join Chinese and Iranian vessels for BRICS Plus naval exercises. Yemen separatists in Riyadh announced disputed dissolution. Hundreds of thousands without power as storm Goretti hits France and Britain. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. A majority of European Union's 27 nations backed the pact with South American bloc Mercosur at the meeting of envoys in Brussels. The move paves the way for it to be inked in Paraguay next week. The next report navigates through the developments in greater detail and with protests in opposition to the deal as well.
European Union gave on Friday a long-delayed go-ahead to a huge trade deal with the South American bloc, Mercosur, overriding opposition led by France. A majority of the European Union's 27 nations backed the pact at an ambassadors' meeting in Brussels, paving the way for it to be inked in Paraguay next week. More than 25 years in the making, the European Commission sees the deal as crucial to boost exports, support the continent's ailing economy, and foster diplomatic ties at a time of global uncertainty.
Overarching goal of all of us is to deliver a win-win agreement that never sells EU businesses short. In the case of Mercosur, we didn't just listen to concerns, we went further than ever before with, I would like to underline, unprecedented, targeted toolbox that you already all know.
The pact gives Brussels the green light to sign an accord championed by business groups but opposed by many European farmers. The pact creates a massive free trade zone for over 700 million people after 25 years of negotiations. The deal eliminates tariffs on over 90% of goods, saving EU businesses €4 billion yearly and boosting exports amid global challenges. Supporters including Germany, Spain and now Italy emphasize industrial benefits. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz hailed the trade deal, saying in a post on X that the EU-Mercosur agreement is a milestone in European trade policy and a strong signal of our strategic sovereignty and ability to act. This is good for Germany and for Europe. He called for the need to move faster as 25 years of negotiations were far too long. However, French President Emmanuel Macron vowed opposition, calling it outdated and citing farmer fears of cheap South American imports. Opponents like Ireland and Poland warned of agricultural harm despite concessions. Around 50 French farmers, supported by German colleagues, staged protests against the Mercosur Free Trade Agreement. The same scenes witnessed in Poland, where farmers staged protests in Warsaw, opposing the pact. Bureau Report, DD India.
Some weather updates. Northern Europe has been plunged into chaos as powerful burst of winter weather unleashes gale force winds, heavy snow and freezing temperatures across the region. Multiple storms are tearing through the continent, knocking out power, paralyzing transport networks and putting emergency services on high alert. As authorities warn, the worst may not yet be over. Here's more.
Northern Europe is battling the full force of extreme winter weather as gale force winds, heavy snow and freezing temperatures sweep across the region, triggering widespread disruption. In the United Kingdom, tens of thousands remain in the dark. Around 57,000 homes are still without electricity after Storm Goretti battered large parts of the country overnight. Heavy snowfall and powerful winds have crippled transport networks, forcing the cancellation of train and bus services and leaving stranded travelers scrambling for last-minute accommodation. Forecasters warn that dangerous conditions are set to persist in several areas.
It was snowing very heavily at that time. We were wet through, very demoralised. But, you know, it's an adventure. It's an adventure.
Across the channel, Germany is also feeling the impact. Rail operator Doordarshan has suspended long-distance train services as Storm Ellie barrels through northern Germany, bringing severe winds and hazardous travel conditions. France, too, has been hit hard. More than 80,000 homes lost power, mainly in the northern Normandy region. Violent winds uprooted trees across several areas, with at least one crashing into residential buildings in Seine-Maritime.
In terms of material damage, a large number of roads have been blocked by fallen trees and branches. As I speak, 82,200 households are without electricity. The same applies to phone networks. Around 50,000 people are without telephone service.
As storms continue to lash northern Europe, a authorities are urging caution, with emergency services on high alert and millions bracing for further disruption. Bureau Report, DD India.
Spanish police have arrested 34 people in a nationwide operation against an international crime ring known as the Black Axe on accusations of fraud, money laundering and document forgery. Black Axe originated in Nigeria as a student co-fraternity in the late 1970s and has since evolved into a structured, violent criminal organization dealing mainly in cyber-enabled financial crime. Europol said the operation was coordinated with authorities in Germany as part of the wider investigation. The organized crime network allegedly recruited money mules in impoverished areas of Spain with high unemployment rates. Investigators estimate that the network had defrauded its victim of more than $6.8 million. A Russian warship has arrived off South Africa's main naval base on Friday to join Chinese and Iranian vessels in week-long military exercises. It's a show of maritime cooperation that may strain Pretoria's ties with Washington. The Will for Peace 2026 drills, led by China and involving several BRICS and BRICS Plus nations, begin with an opening ceremony and focus on joint maritime safety, interoperability and protecting shipping routes. China's destroyer and support ships, along with an Iranian forward-base vessel, had already reached South African waters earlier in the week ahead of the maneuvers near Cape Town and Simonstown. The participation of Russia, China and Iran comes amid heightened global tensions, including recent US actions in Venezuela and broader geopolitical disagreements with the United States. Yemen's main southern separatist group, the Southern Transitional Council (STC), has decided to disband, according to a statement read by a delegate attending a peace talk in Saudi Arabia. The announcement comes amid apparent divisions within the UAE-backed group, with some members absent from the Riyadh talks. STC leader Adras al-Zubaydi reportedly fled Yemen instead of attending the negotiations, following tensions with Saudi Arabia after the group's recent military advances in southern Yemen. The STC has since said it lost contact with its delegation, signaling a growing internal split. Moving on, in a weekly press briefing by India's Ministry of External Affairs, spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal addressed the media. Referring to the US Commerce Secretary's remarks, Jaiswal said, since 3rd February last year, India and US have had multiple rounds of negotiations. He said that reported remarks are not accurate.
We have seen the remarks. India and the United States were committed to negotiating a bilateral trade agreement with the US as far back as 13th of February last year, that is. Since then, two sides have held multiple rounds of negotiations to arrive at a balanced and mutually beneficial trade agreement. On several occasions, we have been close to a deal. The characterization of these discussions in the reported remarks is not accurate. We remain interested in a mutually beneficial trade deal between two complementary economies and look forward to concluding it. Incidentally, Prime Minister and President Trump have also spoken on phone on 8 occasions during 2025, covering different aspects of our wide-ranging partnership.
And speaking on incidents of rising Chinese aggression in the region, MEA spokesperson said India has never recognized the so-called China-Pakistan boundary agreement of 1963 and asserted that Chakham Valley is Indian territory.
Chakham Valley is Indian territory. We have never recognized the so-called China-Pakistan boundary agreement that happened in 1963. We have consistently maintained that the agreement is illegal and invalid. We do not recognize the so-called China-Pakistan economic corridor either, which passes through Indian territory that is under forcible and illegal occupation of Pakistan. The entire Union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh are an integral and inalienable part of India. This has been clearly conveyed to Pakistani and the Chinese authorities several times. We have consistently protested with the Chinese side against attempts to alter the ground reality in Shaksgam Valley. We further reserve the right to take necessary measures to safeguard our interests.
And on Chinese military exercises near Taiwan, MA spokesperson said India closely follows developments across the Indo-Pacific region and urges all concerned parties to exercise restraint.
India closely follows developments across the Indo-Pacific region. We have an abiding interest in peace and stability in the region in view of our significant trade, economic, people-to-people and maritime interest. We urge all concerned parties to exercise restraint, eschew unilateral actions and resolve all issues through peaceful means without threat or use of force.
The United Nations released its World Economic Situation and Prospects 2026 report on Thursday, projecting India to remain one of the fastest growing major economies despite global uncertainty. DD India's Adamya Mishra gives us more.
The United Nations 2026 report on World Economic Situation and Prospects says India is set to remain among the world's fastest growing major economies, even as global outlook remains clouded by uncertainty, trade tensions and fiscal pressures. According to the UN report, India's economy is estimated to have grown 7.4% in 2025. Growth is expected to moderate to 6.6% in 2026 and 6.7% in 2027, but will remain strong compared to most major economies. The report says India's growth is being supported by resilient domestic consumption and strong public investment, which are expected to offset the adverse impact of higher United States tariffs and global trade uncertainty. The UN notes that recent tax reforms and monetary easing in India should provide additional near-term support to economic activity, even as external conditions remain challenging. United Nations also underlines that while India's growth is expected to stay robust, sustaining momentum will depend on managing global risks, maintaining investment levels, and supporting domestic demand. At the regional level, the UN projects South Asia to remain one of the strongest growing regions globally, with India continuing to anchor the region's performance. Adamya Mishra's report for DD India.
India has taken a major leap in hypersonic weapons development. Hyderabad-based Defence Research and Development Lab, a key unit of Defence Research and Development Organisation (DRDO), has successfully conducted a long-duration ground test of an actively cooled full-scale scramjet combustor. The test, carried out on January 9th at the state-of-the-art Scramjet Connect pipe test facility, marks a critical milestone in development of hypersonic missile technology. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh congratulated DRDO scientists, industry partners and academia, calling the achievement a strong foundation for India's hypersonic cruise missile development program. I'm waiting for a short break. There's more coming up.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome to Jaipur.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. We return to our top stories on the intensifying protest in Iran. And to take the conversation forward, joining me is Ambassador S.R. Thayal, former senior diplomat. Good evening and welcome, sir. Now, Iran has witnessed a few mega protests in the past decades against the Khamenei regime. What is your read on the present uprising? How's it different?
2-3 years back, the protest was when a young lady was killed when she was accused of violating the hijab rules of the state, and she was caught and she was very violently treated. And there was a lot of protest all over Iran, but mostly Kurdish part of Iran. And that died out because the law enforcement agencies are very strong and very powerful and quite brutal there. But this time the protest is on prices and shortage of goods. The real, the local currency, it has really fallen more than 1 million, I think it is real, to $1. And there is acute shortage of goods. People are unable to find enough to eat, etc. And the shopkeepers went on protest. So the bazaar, what is called bazaar there, they have started the protest. And it has grown. Actually, there is no international news agency is allowed to report from within Iran. So whatever news is coming out is through official channels, which is not very reliable. And even generally it is said that perhaps 12, 13 cities the protests are going on. But wherever protests are going on, the internet has also been blocked. So there is hardly any real information coming out of Iran. But the fact remains that Iran today is in a much weaker position than what it was even 3 years earlier. They have their one ally, Syria, Assad government has fallen. Then Hezbollah has been quite weakened, if not fully demolished, in Lebanon. And their third ally in West Asia, in Gaza, Hamas, is under tremendous pressure and more or less decimated by Israel. So as far as the international profile of Iran is concerned, at present it is quite weak. And Iran itself was attacked by United States and Israel last year, and their nuclear assets were quite damaged, if not fully demolished. So the regime is under tremendous pressure, but they have a very strong law enforcement apparatus. So it will be contained, and I do not really expect that there will be some kind of a regime change, etc. But it shows the weakness of the regime and the growing gulf between the ruling ayatollahs and clerics and the masses on the street.
Okay, Ambassador, staying with the economic crisis that you mentioned, the currency Rial has sunk to a record low. The inflation is around 40% as per the data available. Now, with crippling international sanctions added to that, there appears to be no easy way out for the Iran administration to take the country out of the crisis.
Yes, there is no easy way out because their oil remains under sanctions. Even India is unable to buy oil from Iran, and only China and some other countries are buying from Iran. So the economic lifeline can come really from China and maybe to some extent from Russia. And there was some elements of some kind of a understanding between Iran and Saudi Arabia also last year, which have been bitter enemies in the past. but it does not have a very strong economic dimension yet. But Iran, to an extent, is isolated, but it is trying to build bridges with the Gulf countries, both with the UAE and Saudi Arabia. And of course, in the international global contestation among different powers, China and Russia are with Iran.
Ambassador, can you give us some insight into the internal complexity of the domestic politics of Iran? You mentioned there's no real threat to Supreme Leader Khamenei's regime, but once again, Reza Pahlavi's persona has sort of come up during these protests. Are the protests against the regime necessarily favoring Pahlavi's return?
The political system there is that, yes, there is a democracy to the extent that there are presidential elections as well as elections for the National Assembly. But all the candidates are approved by a council which is comes from the clerics. So they are all, it's a guided kind of democracy. And that's why it does not fully and truly reflect the opinion of the masses, that is of the people. That is one part. But yes, there were some slogans heard in favor of the deposed Shah Reza Pahlavi. But I do not really think that it can gather a lot of momentum because there is no organization or no body which really can support the return of the Shah. It is just an expression of dissent and frustration and anger against the present regime.
Right. Now, one of the reasons one could say these protests become powerful is the manner in which US President Donald Trump appears to be putting his weight behind the protesters. He's warned Iran against attacking the protesters. But if Venezuela was about oil, when Donald Trump says US is locked and loaded for Iran, what is President Trump seeking here?
President Trump had once tried to open some channels of communication with Iran and said that he can come to some agreement, but Iran is very much against America, which it called the Great Satan. So there is no possibility at present. And after all, United States attacked Iran's nuclear facilities. And Israel could also attack only with the United States' help. So there is no prospects of any kind of understanding between United States and Iran. And yes, President Trump has threatened Iran with air attacks in case it acts against the protesters. And yes, President Trump's words should be taken seriously. And the world has now realized that he can also should be taken literally. And if President Trump says that he can take action in Iran, sorry, really there is no way Iran can stop its planes from attacking. Because of what we saw in Venezuela, the kind of cyber capacity and electronic jamming capacity, etc., which the United States has, I would think that Iran will not have any match for that.
Ambassador, finally, how should India be looking at these developments concerning US and Iran?
See, India has good stakes in Iran. We want the Chabahar port to operate. So what would really like, we have very good friendly relations with Iran. And for our international north-south transport corridor, Iran is the fulcrum, even for Afghanistan, because we cannot go through Pakistan. Iran is the base. So one would very much, India will very much like that peace and tranquility should continue, first of all. And the internal problems of Iran should be resolved by the people of Iran. And the government of Iran working together, working in harmony, communicating with each other. Because as it is, there is enough chaos in the world. And there should not be another point of chaos in our neighborhood. Bangladesh, you look around Pakistan, there's a lot of problem. So Iran should remain stable. One would really like that there should not become another flashpoint in West Asia.
On that note, Ambassador S.R. Tayal, thank you very much for joining us on the News Hour and sharing your perspective. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Devotees make their way to the sacred land of Somnath during the ongoing Somnath Swabhiman Parv. Prasar Bharati launches Creators Corner on DD News to empower digital creators nationwide.
Welcome to the fascinating world of Daman and Diu and Dadra and Nagar Haveli. Unravel the rich history.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Ministry of External Affairs celebrated Vishwa Hindi Diwas with great enthusiasm in New Delhi, reaffirming India's commitment for the promotion of Hindi at global level. Although Vishwa Hindi Diwas is celebrated on 10th January to mark the first World Hindi Conference held in Nagpur in 1975, the official program was organized on Friday.
The celebration at the Ministry of External Affairs witnessed a large gathering of ambassadors and diplomats based in New Delhi from different parts of the world. The program began with the lighting of the ceremonial lamp by Minister of State for External Affairs, Kirtivardhan Singh, senior officials of the Ministry of External Affairs and ambassadors. This was followed by a soulful rendition of Varde Veena, Vadini Varde. Addressing the gathering, Minister Singh described Hindi as a shared and connecting language. He added that today the identity of the Indian diaspora is closely linked with Hindi. The minister also underlined the government's sustained efforts to promote Hindi abroad through institutions such as the Indian Council for Cultural Relations and referred to the establishment of the World Hindi Secretariat in Mauritius.
ICCR विदेशों में हिंदी शिक्षण के लिए भारत से अध्यापकों की व्यवस्था भी बनाती है। अंतर्राष्ट्रीय भाषा के रूप में हिंदी का प्रचार प्रसार तथा हिंदी को संयुक्त राष्ट्र संघ की आधिकारिक भाषा बनाने के उद्देश्य से मॉरिशस में हम लोगों ने 2008 में विश्व हिंदी सचिवालय की स्थापना भी किया गया था।
Secretary South in the Ministry of External Affairs, Neena Malhotra, delivered the welcome address. She highlighted that in view of India's growing global influence, knowledge of Hindi is increasingly being seen as an asset. She also read out the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's message, expressing confidence that such initiatives would inspire deeper engagement of the diaspora with India and the Hindi language.
हिंदी को समृद्ध और सशक्त बनाने में निरंतर योगदान दे रहे सभी व्यक्तियों को, सभी संस्थाओं को और विशेषकर विदेश मंत्रालय, भारतीय मिशन और केंद्रों के सभी सहयोगियों का मैं हृदय से अभिनंदन करता हूं। हस्ताक्षरित श्री नरेंद्र मोदी।
Ambassadors from Eritrea, Morocco and Norway also addressed the gathering. Extending greetings on Hindi Diwas, they described Hindi as a language that connects cultures and echoed the spirit of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The world is one family. The cultural segment featured vibrant performances by foreign students, including students from the Central Hindi Institute, Agra, and a moving presentation by a student from Suriname, celebrating the universal appeal of Hindi through poetry and music. On this occasion, several passport officers and staff members of the Ministry of External Affairs were honored for their contribution to the promotion of Hindi. Additional awards were also presented under the Hindi Fortnight celebrations.
At a time when global investors are seeking for a stable market in the world, India is the best option, and Hindi is the language through which everyone can connect with India. Akhilesh Suman with camera person Pramod Negi for DD India in Delhi.
Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan attended the convocation ceremony of Lovely Professional University in Punjab as the chief guest on Friday. The Vice President congratulated the graduating students. Addressing the gathering, he described the convocation as a moment of fulfillment and renewed responsibility, urged students to play an active role in building Viksit Bharat 2047. He emphasized that under visionary leadership of Prime Minister Modi, the country has set an ambitious yet achievable goal of building a developed, self-reliant, inclusive and confident India.
Under the visionary leadership of our great Prime Minister, Sriman Narendra Modi ji, the nation has set before itself an ambitious yet achievable goal of building a developed, self-reliant, inclusive and confident India.
At least 14 people lost their lives on Friday after a private bus carrying over 66 passengers skidded off a mountainous road and plunged into a deep gorge near Hapur Dar in Himachal Pradesh's Sirmaur district. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has expressed deep grief over the loss of lives and extended condolences to the bereaved families. In a social media post, Prime Minister Office says the loss of lives due to a bus mishap in Sirmaur, Himachal Pradesh is extremely saddening. Condolences to those who have lost their loved ones, praying for the speedy recovery of those injured. An ex gratia of rupees 2 lakh from PM NRF would be given to the next of kin of each deceased. The injured would be given rupees 50,000. Union Minister for Information and Broadcasting Ashwani Vaishnav, along with Minister of State L. Murugan on Friday, launched Creators Corner on DD News, which is a special program dedicated to content creators. The inaugural ceremony featured a welcome address by Prasar Bharati Chief Executive Officer and remarks by Ministry of Information Broadcasting Secretary Sanjay Jaju. Inspired by Prime Minister Modi's vision to encourage the content creators economy, the show provides a national platform for creators from diverse regions and topics. The initiative aims to promote digital economy by encouraging the creation of quality content and expanding its reach through a partnership between Prasar Bharati and individual content creators. Creators Corners will feature content on a wide range of themes, including news and current affairs, culture, travel, cuisine, art and literature, music and dance, health and wellness, education, science and technology, inspiring stories, environment and sustainable development, and entertainment. It will air from Monday to Friday at 7 PM IST with repeats. Officials present at the event praised the initiative for bridging creators with public broadcasting.
तो माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी हर सेक्टर में रिफॉर्म्स के लिए हमको इंस्पायर करते हैं. उसी कड़ी में आज क्रिएटर्स कॉर्नर लॉन्च हुआ है. ये नई शुरुआत के लिए दूरदर्शन को, प्रसार भारती को, INB मिनिस्ट्री को और सभी क्रिएटर साथियों को अभिनंदन. हम लोगों का करीब करीब टारगेट है क्रिएटर इकोनॉमी में 1 करोड़ नौजवान जुड़े. 1 करोड़ यूथ will be connected through creators economy. एक तरीके से ये नया एम्प्लॉयमेंट की अपॉर्चुनिटी बनेगी.
The two-day National Textiles Ministers Conference concluded on Friday in Guwahati, bringing together textile ministers and senior officials from states and union territories to chart the future roadmap of India's textile sector. Addressing the media, Minister of State for Textiles Pavitra Margareta highlighted India's vision of building a $350 billion textile economy under leadership of Prime Minister Modi.
After agriculture, textile industry is the sector where highest numbers of people are engaged, professionally engaged. This particular sector of textile engages 4.5 crores of people, right from farmer to industrialist. The target which was set by Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji to make our textile industry an industry of $350 billion by 2030. This conference will be one of the contributors to this journey of our textile industry.
And during the ongoing Somnath Swabhiman Parv, devotees from across the country are making their way to the sacred land of Somnath. Speaking to DD India Siddharth Bharadwaj, visitors expressed their happiness at getting the opportunity to visit Somnath during such a special occasion, praised the development of the region under Prime Minister Modi.
Year 2026 is very significant for Somnath Temple. I'm here standing on the sacred land of Somnath, and behind me is Somnath Temple, standing tall and rock solid. And it's significant because it's been 1,000 years since the first attack happened on Somnath Temple, and after that many attacks happened, but the resolve, the grit, the zeal of the people made sure that this temple is rebuilt and reconstructed and rejuvenated. I have with me some people here. How are you feeling coming here today?
Actually, it's nice to be here, and at least at this time we got to know here that is our 1,000th year after the formation of this temple, so it's already very glorious moment, I think, and the decorations and everything is splendid and everything, and I think all the arrangements are also very nicely done. You can go in there, you can have the darshan, I think very arranged and easily accommodated. Everything is quite nice here.
This beautiful ocean, sparkling like a diamond, and I'm here for the meditation camp as well. We have no idea this is this time happening, so it isn't a coincidence, and we are thrilled and our heart is full that we are here. And because of Modi ji, we are able to see such beauty over here of flowers and everything. That's extremely beautiful and heart-warming. I really loved it.
People here are coming from all walks of life, in fact from every corner of the country, and they are hailing the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and they are saying that they're feeling really happy that they have come here, and especially when the Somnath Swabhiman Parv is going on, which honors in fact the supreme sacrifices of the warriors who stood against the barbaric invasion, and with their extreme zeal and grit and absolute resolve, they made sure that every time the temple is attacked, every time it was rebuilt, rejuvenated and reconstructed. And they are also hailing the eternal legacy of Sanatan Dharma. With camera person Jagmohan, this is Siddharth Bharadwaj reporting for DD India in Somnath, Gujarat.
You're watching DD India Newshour. Time now for all the action from sports. The spirit of sports and unity is shining bright in India's due as Khelo India Beach Games bring together young talent from across the country. Thrilling competition and vibrant energy. The games promise excitement until the grand closing on the 10th of January. Here's more.
The Khelo India Beach Games underway in Diu are not only showcasing thrilling sporting action but also presenting a clear picture of Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat. More than 2,100 athletes from across the country have arrived in Diu to participate. Despite the cultural and linguistic diversity of different states, the games are painting a beautiful portrait of unity in diversity.
This gives me immense pleasure to see this at this level, because earlier we used to find the opportunity to go somewhere and fight, but here due to our PM Mr. Modi, we got this platform and the people are coming to us. We are very happy. Being the host, we got the chance to participate in every category. My children, they have proved that they have the courage and strength and power to perform better.
From Kashmir to Kanyakumari and from Arunachal to Gujarat, athletes from every corner of the nation have come together at the Khelo India Beach Games. Players believe this platform is not just about sports but also about sharing experiences with fellow athletes from other states, a golden opportunity to learn and grow together.
Everyone is here very intrigued with the acknowledgement that there are so many sports here going on and with so much of enthusiasm and dedication. So I feel like the youth is very inspired and they will be trying for getting selected and performing for beach games.
Organized under the Khelo India scheme, the beach games are proving to be a major stage for young athletes. At the same time, this platform is strengthening the bonds of unity and discipline among them. The dominance of athletes from Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu in several competitions further highlights how this event is nurturing a new sporting culture in the Union Territory. The games began with their grand opening ceremony on 5th January this year in Diu, and they will conclude with the closing ceremony on 10th of January, bringing together days of sporting excellence and cultural unity. Sushil Oja's report for DD India.
And that's all in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan this QR code on the screen and download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.